The great hall of Nexus Prime stretched far beyond what any human eye could see. Crystal towers rose high into the purple sky, their surfaces glowing with soft light. Inside the massive building, beings from across the galaxy sat in perfect circles, their strange forms creating shadows on the polished floor. Ambassador Velthor stood at the center of the hall. His tall, thin body moved like water as he walked. Blue lights flickered along his arms and head, showing his excitement. He had spent 3 years preparing for this moment. Today, he would finally put an end to the most dangerous lie in galactic history. Fellow beings of the Galactic Council, Velthor began, his voice echoing through the hall. I come before you with proof that will change everything we know about intelligent life in our galaxy. The assembled delegates turned their attention to him. There were the rock-like beings from the Silicon hegemony, their bodies making soft grinding sounds when they moved. The floating energy creatures from the Plasma Collective hummed with electricity. The insect-like hive queens clicked their mandibles in what passed for polite attention. Velthar raised one of his long arms. A massive holographic display appeared above the gathering. Star charts filled the air, showing thousands of worlds. Across dozens of systems, each one was marked with symbols indicating surveyed planets, established trade routes, and registered intelligent species. For over 3,000 years, we have mapped every corner of known space, Velthor continued. We have cataloged every sentient species, every technological achievement, every civilization that has reached for the stars. Our records are complete and perfect. High Chancellor Mordok of the Silicon hegemony shifted his massive crystalline body. His voice sounded like grinding stone. And why have you called this emergency session, Ambassador? What new threat requires our attention? Velthor. Blue lights pulsed brighter. The threat is not new, Honored Chancellor. It is old, persistent, and more dangerous than any enemy we have faced. Now, this is the continued spread of the human myth. A wave of what could only be called laughter swept through the assembly. The plasmid beings sparked with amusement. The hive queens buzzed with entertainment. Even the usually serious rock beings made rumbling sounds of mirth. Humans again? Asked Counselor Zephyra from the Void Walkers, her translucent form shimmering with disbelief. How many times must we explain that no such species exists? Velthar had expected this reaction. For decades, stories about humans had spread through the galaxy like a plague. These tales spoke of impossible beings from a world called Earth. In a system designated Sol 3 according to the myths, humans were creatures who had somehow survived on a death world with crushing gravity and toxic atmosphere. The stories claimed they had tamed their planet's most dangerous predators, and somehow achieved spaceflight despite developing nuclear weapons before mastering basic physics. The stories persist because they appeal to primitive emotions. Velthor explained, changing the display to show various alien entertainment networks. Okay, look at these broadcasts from the Outer Rim territories. Humans save colony from asteroid impact. Human explorers discover new hyperdrive technology. Human diplomats prevent war between the Centauri Alliance and the Beta Collective. More laughter filled the hall. Admiral Korth of the Military Directorate spoke up, his mechanical voice cutting through the noise. These stories violate every known law of evolution in physics. No species develops nuclear fission before achieving gravity manipulation. No civilization survives on a high-gravity world without advanced technology. These humans are clearly fictional characters created for entertainment. What none of the council members knew was that their entire session was being monitored. Deep in the Outer Rim territories, aboard a ship that officially did not exist. Dr. Kim Dae-ho watched their transmission with growing anger. The research vessel, Indomitable Spirit, drifted silently through space, its hull scarred from years of exploration. Dr. Kim was an old man now, his hair white and his face lined with wrinkles. He had spent 40 years studying alien civilizations, making first contact with dozens of species, and documenting the wonders of the galaxy. Now he watched as those same species dismissed his entire people as fiction. "Captain, are you seeing this?" Dr. Kim asked, without turning from his screen. Captain Lee Jesu stood behind him, her hands gripping the back of his chair. She was younger than Dr. Kim, but her dark eyes held the same fury he felt. "I'm seeing it, Doctor. 37 human colonies across 17 systems, and they call us myths." On the screen, Velthor continued his presentation. He showed carefully edited star charts where human settlements should have been, but the maps were blank. He displayed testimonies from what he called reliable sources, claiming that human stories had originated from a popular entertainment series created by Dreamweavers from the Zentari system. "Every piece of alleged evidence has been thoroughly investigated," Velthor announced. "Every claimed human colony, every supposed first contact, every reported technological innovation, none of it exists in our official records." Dr. Kim's research partner, Park Min-soo, looked up from his workstation. The young linguist's face was pale with shock. "Doctor, I've been cross-referencing their data with our exploration logs. They've erased everything. Every trade agreement we signed, every planet. We helped terraform every species we made contact with. According to their records, none of it ever happened." Captain Lee moved to the communications console. Her voice was steady, but Dr. Kim could hear the controlled rage beneath her calm words. "Communications, open a priority channel to Earth. Command. Authorization. Leal Fisavanzavan." The magnitude of what they were witnessing became clearer as more testimonies played on the screen. Species that humans had helped during natural disasters now credited other civilizations with providing aid. Worlds that human engineers had helped build now claimed the construction was done entirely by alien workers. Technologies that human scientists had developed and shared freely were now attributed to beings who had barely achieved spaceflight when humans first contacted them. The most painful moment came when Ambassador Velthor displayed what he called the final proof, a series of archaeological surveys from ancient worlds, all showing no evidence of human presence. Ruins that Dr. Kim himself had studied, artifacts that bore clear signs of human influence, sites where human explorers had left memorial markers for fallen comrades. All of it had been systematically altered or destroyed. "The human myth represents more than simple entertainment," Velthor continued, his blue lights now pulsing with what seemed like genuine concern. "These stories promote dangerous ideas. They suggest that primitive species can somehow overcome advanced civilizations through determination alone. They imply that the natural order of galactic society can be changed by individual action rather than proper authority." High Chancellor Mordok's crystalline form resonated with approval. "The ambassador speaks wisdom. Order must be maintained. These human stories encourage rebellion among lesser species." Captain Lee finished her transmission to Earth Command and turned to address her crew. The bridge of the Indomitable Spirit was small, designed for a research vessel rather than a warship. But the dozen humans present represented something the Galactic Council had tried to erase from history. "Communications Officer Yoon, send the same message to all colonial governors and deep space exploration vessels," Captain Lee ordered. "Priority 1, immediate response required." "What are your orders, Captain?" asked Dr. Kim. Captain Lee looked back at the screen, where the Galactic Council was now voting to officially ban all discussion of humans as a dangerous myth, threatened galactic stability. Her decision would echo across the galaxy and change the course of history. "They want to pretend we don't exist," she said quietly. "Then let's show them exactly what humanity is capable of. Signal all ships and colonies. Operation Revelation begins now." The vote on the screen was unanimous. The Galactic Council officially declared humanity to be a prohibited subject, a dangerous fiction that would no longer be tolerated in civilized space. They ordered all remaining human stories to be removed from public networks and banned any further discussion of the mythical species. As the council session ended and the delegates began to leave, none of them noticed the small, nearly invisible probe that had been recording everything from the shadows of the Great Hall. The device transmitted its data to a relay station in deep space, which forwarded it to another relay and another, until the signal reached its destination on Earth. In the underground command center beneath the Swiss Alps, Admiral Bei Chaiyun received the transmission. She had been preparing for this day for years, hoping it would never come, but knowing it was inevitable. The Galactic Council had finally made their position clear. Humanity was not welcome in their carefully ordered galaxy, but they had made one crucial mistake. They had assumed that a species capable of surviving on a death world, of building civilization from nothing, of reaching for the stars despite every obstacle, would simply disappear when told they did not exist. They were about to learn how wrong they were. As the lights dimmed in the Great Hall of Nexus Prime and the delegates returned to their ships, none of them realized that they had just declared war on the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Not because humans were the strongest or the most advanced, but because they were the most stubborn. Humanity had spent centuries proving that impossible things could become possible through determination and sacrifice. Now they would prove it again, on a scale that would shake the very foundations of galactic civilization. 3 weeks had passed since the Galactic Council declared humanity a dangerous myth. Across civilized space, strange things began to happen. Trade ships that had followed the same routes for centuries suddenly found their navigation systems failing. Defense grids that had operated perfectly for decades started showing error messages that made no sense. Most disturbing of all, archaeological databases began displaying evidence of structures and artifacts that, according to official records, had never existed. Dr. Choi, Yuna pressed her face against the viewing port of the stealth vessel hangings. Pride as they approached the ancient world of Kepler 44b, the planet below looked peaceful. Its red surface dotted with the remains of civilizations that had died out long before most species had achieved spaceflight. But Dr. Choi knew this world held secrets that could change everything. Cloaking field is stable, reported the ship's pilot, Lieutenant Che Dongmin. Council patrol ships are passing right by us. They have no idea we're here. The Hanging's Pride was humanity's most advanced stealth vessel. Its hull was covered with adaptive plating that could mimic the appearance of space debris or even empty vacuum. The technology had been developed by combining human engineering with systems borrowed from a dozen different alien civilizations. The irony was not lost on Dr. Choi that they were using alien technology to hide from the very aliens who claimed humans did not exist. "Take us down to the northern continent," Dr. Choi ordered. "Landing Zone 7, just like we planned." Her team consisted of 5 specialists, each chosen for their expertise in different aspects of alien archaeology. Her second-in-command was Nam Ji-hoon, a young man who had spent years studying the ruins of dead civilizations. There was also Park Soyeon, an expert in ancient languages, and Lee Kung-soo, who specialized in alien technology systems, as their ship touched down near the massive stone structures that covered the planet's surface.
Dr. Choi
Felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. These ruins were over 50,000 years old, built by a species called the Velthari, who had vanished long before humans had even discovered fire. According to council records, the Velthari had lived and died alone, never making contact with any other intelligent species. But Dr. Choi knew better. She had spent months analyzing data that human explorers had secretly gathered from this world. The evidence suggested something that would shock the galaxy if it ever became public knowledge. Remember, we have 6 hours before the next council. Patrol, Dr. Choi told her team as they gathered their equipment. "We need to document everything and get out before they detect us." The ruins themselves were magnificent. Towers of dark stone reached toward the sky, their surfaces covered with intricate carvings that seemed to tell the story of an entire civilization. The Velthari had been master builders, creating structures that had survived tens of thousands of years without any maintenance. But it was the carvings that made Dr. Choi's heart race. As her team set up their recording equipment, she traced her fingers along the ancient stone symbols. The images were clear even after all this time. They showed Velthari figures standing alongside other beings working together on massive construction projects, sharing knowledge and technology. And some of those other beings looked remarkably human. "Doctor, you need to see this," called Nam Ji-hoon from deeper in the ruins. He had found an entrance to underground chambers that had been sealed for millennia. Dr. Choi followed him down stone steps, worn smooth by age. Their lights cut through the darkness, revealing walls covered with more carvings. But these were different from the ones on the surface. These told a story of war and alliance, of different species working together against a common enemy. "The detail is incredible," whispered Park Soyeon, as she began photographing the wall paintings. "Look at this section here. It shows what appears to be a great battle, with ships from different civilizations fighting side by side." Nam Ji-hoon had moved ahead to the deepest chamber. His excited voice echoed back to them. "Doctor, there's something here you need to see right now." At the heart of the underground complex, they found a crystalline data core unlike anything in known archaeological records. The crystal was perfectly preserved, its faceted surface glowing with a faint inner light when their equipment scanned. It's some kind of recording device," Lee Kung-soo reported after running several scans. "The technology is incredibly advanced. It's been waiting here for someone to activate it. Dr. Choi made the decision that would change galactic history. Do it. Activate the recording." The crystal began to glow brighter, and suddenly the chamber filled with holographic images. The projection showed the ancient world as it had been 50,000 years ago, when it was green and full of life. The Velthari appeared as tall, graceful beings with 4 arms and elaborate head crests. But they were not alone. The hologram showed representatives from dozens of species, including several that looked exactly like humans. They were working together on massive projects, sharing technology and knowledge freely. The images showed human-like figures teaching alien children, human engineers working alongside alien scientists, human diplomats negotiating peace between different species. But the most shocking part came next. The hologram showed a great war against an enemy called the Devourers, massive creatures that consumed entire worlds. The alliance of species, including the human-like beings, had fought desperately to stop this threat. The final images showed a great victory, with the Devourers defeated and driven back into the void between galaxies. "This predates known galactic civilization by thousands of years," Dr. Choi whispered. "According to this record, humans were part of the galaxy's first great alliance. Meanwhile, on the other side of the galaxy, different human teams were making their own discoveries. On the industrial world of Gamma Centauri, engineer Songbora had successfully infiltrated the massive orbital shipyards where the Council built their patrol fleets. Disguised as a maintenance worker, Songbora moved through the construction bays with practiced confidence. Her false identity papers claimed she was a technician from the Arcturus Collective, one of the species that had supposedly developed the advanced stealth systems used in Council ships. But Songbora knew the truth. Those stealth systems had been designed by human engineers and shared with alien civilizations during First Contact decades ago. Now she was gathering proof of the theft. "The irony is perfect," she whispered into her hidden recorder as she documented the construction process. "They're using human technology to build ships that patrol space looking for humans." Her recordings showed Council workers installing shield generators, jump drives, and weapon systems that had all been originally developed in human laboratories. The designs had been altered slightly and given different names, but the core technology was unmistakably human in origin. The breakthrough came when communications specialist Yoon Tae-yuk, working from a monitoring station hidden in an asteroid field, intercepted a classified transmission between high-ranking Council members. The message was encrypted with multiple layers of security, but human codebreakers had always been among the best in the galaxy. The decoded transmission revealed the existence of something called the Suppression Protocol. For over 2 centuries, the Council had been running a systematic campaign to erase all evidence of human achievement and redistribute credit to more acceptable species. Every time humans made contact with a new species, every time we shared technology or provided aid, Council agents would arrive within months to correct the record. Yoon Tae-yuk reported during an encrypted briefing with other human operatives. The protocol was staggeringly comprehensive. Council agents had altered archaeological sites, modified historical records, and even used memory modification technology on witnesses who had interacted with humans. Any evidence of human achievement was systematically attributed to other species, or destroyed entirely. But the Council had made one crucial mistake. Humans had a tendency to make backup copies of everything important, often without telling anyone else about them. Across dozens of worlds, human operatives began accessing hidden data caches and uploading suppressed information to public networks. The first major crack in the deception came during a routine council session discussing trade regulations. Holographic display system that showed shipping routes and cargo manifests suddenly began showing something entirely different. For 30 seconds, before security could shut down the system, delegates across the galaxy watched footage of human colonies, human scientists making breakthrough discoveries, and human diplomats successfully negotiating peace treaties. Ambassador Velther watched in horror as his carefully constructed lies began to unravel in front of billions of viewers. His blue lights flickered erratically as he tried to maintain his composure. Technical malfunction, he announced to the assembly. Security teams are investigating this obvious system intrusion. But the damage was done. The footage had been transmitted across the galaxy's communication networks, faster than the Council could contain it. On 1,000 worlds, beings who had quietly suspected that human stories might be true suddenly found validation for their beliefs. The suppressed evidence continued to surface. Ancient ruins that had been sealed for decades were mysterious. The galaxy was in chaos. The hijacked transmission had spread through subspace networks faster than wildfire, and with each relay, more suppressed evidence surfaced. On 1,000 worlds, beings who had quietly harbored suspicions about human myths suddenly found their beliefs validated. The carefully ordered galaxy that the Council had maintained for centuries was beginning to crack. Captain Kong Wanho stood on the bridge of the heavy cruiser, Taguk, as it dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Proxima system. His ship was one of humanity's most advanced warships, built in secret shipyards hidden in the Outer Rim territories. Today, it would serve not as a weapon of war, but as proof that humanity was very real indeed. "Sir, sensors are detecting massive energy signatures ahead," reported Lieutenant Commander Shin Hyman from her station. 12 Council warships in defensive formation around Proxima Station. The station had been built 15 years ago using what the Council claimed was cutting-edge Zentarian technology. Captain Kong knew better. The mining equipment, the fusion reactors, even the artificial gravity systems had all been designed by human engineers. He had worked on some of the designs himself back when humans still believed they could share their knowledge openly with the galaxy. "All stations prepare for demonstration protocol," Captain Kang ordered. "Remember, we are not here to start a war. We are here to end a lie." The Taguk was a masterpiece of human engineering. Its hull was covered with adaptive armor that could adjust its molecular density in real time, making it nearly indestructible. Its engines were powered by a fusion system that produced more energy than most alien worlds consumed in a year. Most importantly, it had been designed by beings who understood that space was trying to kill them every second they were in it. "Human engineering," explained Chief Engineer Ru Su Yang as she monitored the ship's systems. "We built this ship to survive, not just to look impressive. Every critical system has 3 backups. Every component can be repaired with basic tools. If something can go wrong, we planned for it." The Council ships had detected the Taguk's arrival and were moving to intercept. Captain Kang recognized the lead vessel as the hegemony cruiser Eternal Order, commanded by Admiral Korth. It was a beautiful ship, sleek and elegant, with weapons that could vaporize a small moon. But beauty and power were not the same as survival. "Sir, the Council fleet is hailing us," reported Communications Officer Park Jinyuk. "Admiral Korth is demanding that we identify ourselves and state our business in Council space." Captain Kong smiled. "Open a channel, full broadcast. Let every ship in the system hear this." The holographic image of Admiral Korth appeared on the bridge. The alien commander's mechanical body gleamed with polished metal, and his optical sensors glowed red with authority. He had been one of the military leaders who had helped enforce the suppression protocol for decades. "Unknown vessel, you are trespassing in restricted space," Admiral Korth announced. "Identify yourself immediately or face the consequences." "I am Captain Kong Wanho of the human starship Taguk," the captain replied calmly. "We are here to demonstrate something that your Council claims is impossible. We are here to prove that humans exist." The silence that followed was deafening. Admiral Korth's optical sensors flickered as he processed what he had just heard. Around the system, crews on merchant ships and mining stations stopped what they were doing to watch the confrontation unfold. "Impossible," Admiral Korth finally said. "Humans are a myth. You are obviously using some kind of deception technology to disguise your true identity." Captain Kang had expected this response. "Then let us demonstrate the reality of human engineering. Helm, begin evasive maneuvers. Show them what our ship can do." What happened next would be talked about in military academies for generations. The Taguk began moving in ways that defied every known principle of space combat. It twisted and spun through 3 dimensions simultaneously, its adaptive armor shimmering as it deflected targeting sensors. When the Council ships fired warning shots, the human vessel danced between the energy beams like it was performing an elaborate ballet. "This is impossible," Admiral Korth transmitted. "No ship can maneuver like that. The structural stress alone should have torn your vessel apart." "Human ships are built differently," Captain Kong replied. "We do not build for elegance or efficiency. We build to survive whatever the universe throws at us." The demonstration continued for several minutes. The Taguk performed maneuvers that should have been impossible, accelerated at rates that should have liquefied its crew and absorbed impacts that should have destroyed any known spacecraft, all while its crew worked calmly at their stations as if dancing through a battle zone was perfectly normal. But the real shock came when Admiral Korth, frustrated by his inability to even target the human ship, ordered his fleet to open fire. With lethal force, engagement that followed lasted exactly 4 minutes and 17 seconds. When the weapons fire stopped, all 12 Council ships were floating dead in space. Their crews were unharmed, but every weapons system, shield, generator, and engine had been surgically disabled. The Taguk had not suffered so much as a scorch mark on its hull. "How is this possible?" Admiral Korth demanded. "Our ships are equipped with the most advanced technology in the galaxy, technology that humans designed and shared with you decades ago," Captain Kang replied. "We know every weakness because we built every system. The only difference is that we never stopped improving while you assumed you had reached perfection. But the engagement at Proxima was only the beginning. Across the galaxy, similar revelations were taking place. On the trading world of New Babylon, Dr. Im Jawan removed the biosynthetic disguise that had allowed her to pass as a Zentarian researcher for over 20 years. Her transformation was broadcast live on the planet's news networks. "I am human," she announced to her shocked colleagues. "For 2 decades, I have worked among you, learned from you, and contributed to your research projects. I am not a myth or a story. I am your friend and colleague." The reaction was immediate and profound. Beings who had worked alongside Dr. Im for years suddenly realized that everything they thought they knew about humans was wrong. She was not a violent savage from a death world. She was a kind, intelligent scientist who had helped them solve dozens of complex problems. Similar revelations were happening on dozens of worlds. Explorer Han Minjong broadcast from the bridge of her survey ship as it orbited a planet she had discovered and named 15 years earlier. The planet was listed in official records as having been found by a Centaurian exploration team. But Han had the original survey data to prove otherwise. But perhaps the most shocking revelation came from the philosophical world of Harmony Prime, where the elderly teacher known as Keeper Velanash had influenced the thinking of billions of beings across the galaxy. His wisdom and teachings were quoted in universities. His ethical principles were taught to young beings of dozens of species during a live broadcast to his followers. Keeper Velanash slowly removed the bioluminescent implants that had allowed him to pass as an Andromedon for over 30 years. Beneath the artificial enhancements was the weathered face of Dr. Ko Sang-yoon, one of humanity's most respected philosophers. "I am human," he announced to his millions of followers. "For 3 decades I have lived among you, learned your cultures, studied your beliefs, and shared my own thoughts about the nature of existence. The wisdom you have attributed to Keeper Velanash comes from a human mind and a human heart. The revelation sent shockwaves through galactic civilization. Billions of beings realized that they had been living and working alongside humans for generations without knowing it. The philosophical teachings that had shaped their thinking, the scientific advances that had improved their lives, the artistic works that had inspired their cultures, many of them had human origins. But the transformation was not just about revealing hidden humans. As the truth spread, something unprecedented began to happen. Species that had remained neutral in galactic politics began quietly supporting humanity. The isolationist crystalline collective, which had avoided contact with other species for centuries, sent secret messages offering mineral resources. The pacifist harmony singers, who had never taken sides in any conflict, began broadcasting songs that seemed to celebrate human achievements. Even primitive species that the Council had ignored for decades began reaching out. The simple farmers of the agricultural worlds, the miners of the asteroid belts, the traders of the frontier stations, all of them began sharing stories of humans who had helped them, traded with them, protected them from pirates and natural disasters. The pattern became clear as more testimonies emerged. For generations, humans had been the galaxy's unofficial peacekeepers, disaster relief workers, and technological innovators. They had solved problems that other species could not, mediated disputes that seemed impossible to resolve, and provided aid during crises without asking for recognition or reward. "We are not conquerors or invaders," declared Captain Lee Jasoo during a broadcast from the research vessel Indomitable Spirit. "We are explorers, teachers, and friends. We have always sought to learn from other species and to share what we have learned in return." The Council's response to humanity's revelation was swift and brutal. Within days of the Proxima incident, fleets from across the galaxy began converging on human space. The message was clear. This new threat to galactic order would be eliminated before it could spread further. What the Council did not understand was that they were about to face a species unlike any they had encountered before. Dr. Seo Giang stood in the observation deck of the research station orbiting Titan, watching the golden clouds of Saturn's largest moon swirl beneath her feet. As humanity's leading expert in comparative biology, she had spent decades studying how different species had evolved across the galaxy. Now she would use that knowledge to explain to the cosmos exactly what made humans so dangerous. Broadcasting. On all frequencies, reported Communications Officer Jung Min-ho, "Miss, every civilized world in the galaxy will receive this transmission." Dr. Sesso nodded and faced the recording equipment. She knew that billions of alien beings would watch this broadcast, trying to understand how the species they had dismissed as myth had suddenly appeared as a galactic power. What she was about to tell them would shake their understanding of evolution itself. To the civilized species of the galaxy, Dr. Seo began, her voice calm despite the magnitude of what she was revealing. "You wonder how humans survived. Question how we achieved spaceflight from what you call a death world. Let me show you the truth about Earth." The first images she transmitted showed Earth from space, a blue and white marble spinning in the void. To most alien observers, it looked beautiful and peaceful. They could not have been more wrong. Earth's gravity is nearly 3 times stronger than most habitable worlds. Dr. Seo explained as data scrolled across the screen. "What feels normal to us would crush the bones of most galactic species. Our atmosphere contains gases that would be toxic to beings from lower pressure worlds. Our weather systems generate storms that could level entire alien cities." The next series of images showed Earth's weather in action. Hurricanes that spanned hundreds of miles, tornadoes that could lift massive objects into the air, blizzards that buried entire regions under meters of snow. To aliens accustomed to carefully controlled planetary environments, the images were terrifying. But Dr. Seo was just getting started. "These are the conditions we call normal weather. This is what human children play in. This is what we consider a pleasant day for outdoor activities." The broadcast continued with examples that would haunt alien nightmares for generations. Humans swimming in oceans filled with creatures that could kill them in seconds. Humans climbing mountains where the air was too thin for most species to breathe. Humans living in deserts where the temperature could boil alien blood and in polar regions where alien tissue would freeze solid in minutes. We did not just survive on this world, Dr. Seo continued. We thrived on it. We made companions of creatures that could tear us apart with their bare claws. We learned to harness the very forces that should have destroyed us. The images shifted to show Earth's wildlife. Lions, tigers, bears, sharks, venomous snakes, poisonous spiders. Creatures that existed nowhere else in the known galaxy. Most alien species had evolved on worlds where the dominant predators were roughly equivalent to Earth's herbivores. The idea of sharing a planet with such monsters was incomprehensible to them. These are our planet's apex predators, Dr. Seo explained, and humans learned to hunt them for sport. But perhaps the most shocking revelation came when she began discussing human biology. She showed scans of human cellular structure, demonstrating healing capabilities that most aliens considered impossible. Broken bones that could mend themselves, cuts that sealed without medical intervention, immune systems that could adapt to new threats in real time. Humans consume substances that are literally poisonous to other species, Dr. Seo continued, displaying molecular structures of alcohol, caffeine, and capsaicin. What we call recreational beverages and mild spices would be lethal toxins to most galactic civilizations. Our bodies process these substances and use them for energy or pleasure. While Dr. Seo's broadcast spread across the galaxy, the first military engagements were beginning at the edges of human space. Captain Ogion commanded the destroyer Bekduzen as it patrolled the outer boundaries of the Kepler system, watching for signs of the approaching Council fleets. "Sir, sensors are detecting 12 ships dropping out of hyperspace," reported Tactical Officer Kim Dong-ho. "Configuration matches Andromedon battlecruisers." Captain O studied the tactical display. The approaching ships were sleek and powerful, designed for overwhelming enemy forces with superior firepower and advanced technology. They represented everything the Council believed about proper military engineering: elegant, efficient, and deadly. "Signal the crew," Captain O ordered. "Battle stations. Prepare to demonstrate why you never attack a human ship without expecting a fight." The Bekduzen was smaller than any of the Council vessels, and by conventional standards, it should have been hopelessly outmatched. Its hull showed the scars of dozens of previous engagements. Its weapons were simpler than Council technology. Its systems looked primitive as compared to alien designs, but appearances could be deceiving. The engagement began when the Council ships opened fire with plasma weapons that should have vaporized the human destroyer. Instead, the energy beams splashed harmlessly against the Bekduzen's ablative armor, which had been designed to absorb and dissipate exactly that type of attack. "Human redundancy," Captain O explained to her crew as alarms sounded and damage reports came in. "System has a backup. Every backup has a manual override. Every manual override can be operated by someone with basic tools and 5 minutes of training." The battle that followed became legendary throughout the galaxy. The Council ships fought with precision and overwhelming firepower, exactly as their tactical algorithms dictated. They should have won easily. Instead, they found themselves facing an enemy that refused to follow the rules of civilized warfare. When the Bekduzen lost its main weapons, the crew switched to backup systems. When those failed, they improvised with mining charges and maintenance equipment. When their shields collapsed, they used armor and hull integrity to absorb damage. When their engines were damaged, they continued fighting while making repairs under fire. "This is impossible," transmitted Admiral Korth from his flagship. "Your ship should have been destroyed 10 minutes ago." "Human ships are not built to die easily," Captain O replied as her crew welded emergency patches over hull breaches. "We come from a world that tried to kill us every day. We learned to survive by refusing to give up." The engagement ended with all 12 Council ships disabled, their crews rescued by human medical teams, and their weapon systems permanently destroyed. The Bekduzen limped back to base with half its systems offline and its hull held together by emergency repairs. But its crew was celebrating their victory while the ship was still on fire. Meanwhile, on the neutral world of Kepler Prime, Professor Unminuk made a discovery that would change everything. Working in the planet's ancient archives, He found records that had been sealed for thousands of years. Documents that told the true story of the galaxy's last great war. The files. Preserved by a civilization that had died out long before current. Galactic powers had achieved spaceflight, contained detailed accounts of the war against the Devourers. These creatures from the void between galaxies had nearly exterminated all intelligent life, consuming entire worlds and leaving nothing but empty space behind, according to the ancient records. The war had been hopeless until one species turned, the Tide. A young civilization from a small world in the Outer Rim had introduced tactics and technologies that the Devourers could not counter. These beings fought with a ferocity and determination that inspired other species to continue fighting when all hope seemed lost. Species was identified in the records by a name that made Professor On's hands tremble as he translated Ithamanch. Council has always known, he transmitted to Earth Command in an encrypted message. They erased our role in saving the galaxy because they were afraid of what we represented. We are living proof that you do not need to be the strongest or the most advanced to make a difference. You just need to refuse to surrender. The revelation explained everything. Humanity had saved galactic civilization once before, and the Council had systematically erased that achievement from history. They feared humans not because of their technology or their military might, but because of what human nature represented. The idea that any species could overcome any obstacle through determination and sacrifice. As the ancient records spread, through human networks, a new understanding emerged. This was not just a war for recognition or respect. This was a war for the soul of galactic civilization. The Council represented order, stability, and the belief that some species were naturally superior to others. Humanity represented chaos, change. It's a dangerous idea that anyone could rise above their circumstances. The galaxy was about to learn which philosophy would ultimately prevail. Dr. Seo's broadcast concluded with words that would echo through history. We are humans. We're the children of a harsh world that tried to kill us every day we lived on it. We survived ice ages and world wars, plagues and natural disasters, Baka. 6 months into the war, the Galactic Council's confidence began to crack like ice under pressure. Their fleets, designed for quick victories against conventional enemies, found themselves trapped in a grinding conflict against opponents who simply refused to be defeated. Every battle plan, every tactical doctrine, every assumption about civilized warfare was being challenged by humans, who fought like the universe itself was trying to kill them. Admiral Zhang Heinsu stood on the bridge of the command ship Souls. Defiance as it drifted through the debris field that had once been the Vega system's outer defense ring. Her fleet was outnumbered 5-1. But the veteran commander had learned something that alien generals never could. When you come from a world that tried to kill you every day, impossible odds just meant it was Tuesday, the Andromedon. Third Fleet is moving to our starboard flank, reported Communications Officer Lim Sung-yin. Their formation is perfect textbook deployment. They expect us to retreat or attempt a fighting withdrawal. Admiral Zhang studied the tactical display, showing the approaching enemy ships. Each vessel was a masterpiece of alien engineering, sleek and deadly, crewed by beings who had studied warfare for centuries. Their commanders had graduated from the finest military academies in the galaxy. Their tactical computers could calculate the outcome of battles before the first shot was fired. Then they clearly do not understand humans, Admiral Zhang said with a grim smile. Set course directly for their flagship. Maximum acceleration. The Soul's Defiance turned toward the enemy fleet like a hunting shark scenting blood. Hull, scarred from dozens of previous battles, bore the marks of human engineering philosophy. If something could break, build it stronger. If it could fail, have 3 backups ready. If the enemy expected elegant tactics, ram them with a heavily armored brick and see what happened. Sir, collision course with the Andromedan flagship in 4 minutes, reported the navigation officer. They are signaling surrender demands. Ignore them, Admiral Zhang ordered. Charge the jump drive. We are going to show them what human tactics look like. At the last possible second, when collision seemed inevitable, the Soul's Defiance activated. its experimental short-range jump system. The ship vanished from normal space and reappeared inside the enemy formation, its weapons blazing at point-blank range. The battle that followed became known as the Miracle of Vega, human ships. Many, held together by emergency welding and determination, achieved a tactical victory that military schools would study for generations. When the shooting stopped, the Andromedan Third Fleet was scattered across 3 star systems, and human casualties were remarkably light. But the real transformation in the war was happening in laboratories, hidden deep beneath the surface of Mars. Dr. Park Seo-joon, humanity's leading expert in quantum mechanics, had been working around the clock on a project that would change the nature of space combat forever. "We have been thinking about this wrong," Dr. Park explained to his exhausted research team as they gathered around a device that looked like a crystalline flower made of metal and light. The aliens build their ships for maximum efficiency. Every system perfectly integrated, every component optimized for peak performance. They think this makes them superior. His assistant, engineer Kimura, nodded tiredly. But maximum efficiency means no redundancy, no backup systems, no tolerance for failure. Exactly, Dr. Park continued. Where they see elegant engineering, we see critical vulnerabilities. The resonance engine exploits those vulnerabilities by introducing controlled chaos into their perfectly ordered systems. The device he had created was the product of captured alien technology combined with uniquely human engineering principles. Where alien scientists sought harmony and balance, humans embraced controlled disorder. The result was a weapon that could disrupt the quantum foundations that held alien ships together. The first field test occurred during the Battle of Proxima Centauri. Captain Kim Jong-soo commanded the heavy cruiser Hangyang as it faced an overwhelming force of council ships. His vessel was outnumbered 30-1, but it carried Dr. Park's prototype weapon. "Resonance engine charged and ready," reported Chief Engineer Song Minna. "All crew members have been briefed on the possible side effects." Kim nodded. The device was untested in combat, and no one knew exactly what would happen when it activated. But humans had always specialized in using untested equipment in desperate situations and somehow making it work. "Fire when ready," he ordered. The resonance engine activated with a sound like reality tearing. Waves of chaotic quantum energy spread outward from the hanging, washing over the council fleet like a tide of disruption. The perfectly integrated alien ships, designed for maximum efficiency, simply stopped working. 37 council vessels found their engines offline, their weapon systems failing, their life support struggling to maintain basic functions. Their crews were unharmed, but their ships had become expensive pieces of space junk floating helplessly in the void. "This is impossible," transmitted Admiral Korth from his crippled flagship. "Our ships are equipped with the most advanced technology in the galaxy, technology designed by beings who never learned that sometimes the best solution is controlled chaos," Captain Kim replied. "You've built perfect systems. We learned to break them." Meanwhile, across the galaxy, something unprecedented was happening. Species that had remained neutral throughout the conflict began quietly supporting humanity. The isolationist Crystalline Collective, who had avoided galactic politics for centuries, began sharing rare minerals essential for human ship construction. The pacifist Harmony Singers provided medical supplies and humanitarian aid to human colonies. Even primitive species that the Council had ignored began offering assistance. Agricultural worlds sent food supplies. Mining colonies provided raw materials. Frontier traders carried messages and intelligence between human settlements. The reason became clear through intercepted communications between alien leaders. These species recognized something in humanity that resonated with their own struggles and aspirations. Humans represented the possibility that any being, regardless of their origins or circumstances, could rise above their limitations through determination and mutual support. But perhaps the most significant development occurred on the Garden World of New Geneva, where diplomat Lee Jung-soo achieved what many thought impossible. Working in secret with representatives from dozens of minor species, He negotiated the expansion of the Free Worlds Alliance into a true galactic coalition. "This war is not about humans versus aliens," Lee explained to the gathered delegates. "In a hidden conference facility, it is about two different visions for the future of our galaxy. Council represents the old way, rigid hierarchies, fixed roles, the belief that some species are naturally superior to others. We represent something new, cooperation, growth, the idea that every being has the potential to contribute something valuable." The Alliance's first major joint operation demonstrated the power of this new philosophy. Human stealth technology, crystalline mineral processing capabilities, harmony singer coordination skills, and the enthusiasm of dozens of smaller species combined to liberate the occupied world of Kepler Prime in a single, coordinated strike. The operation was executed with surgical precision and zero casualties. Council forces found themselves surrounded not by conquering armies, but by beings offering medical aid, emergency supplies, and safe passage to neutral territory. By the end of the operation, half of the Council garrison had requested asylum. With the Alliance rather than return to their homeworlds, the psychological impact was devastating to Council morale. Reports began flooding in from across their territory, rebellion on worlds that had been peaceful for centuries. Military units defecting to join the Alliance, entire star systems declaring independence from Council authority, in a desperate transmission. 2. The Emergency Council session. Admiral Korth delivered news that would haunt the galactic government. "They are not just defeating us militarily. They are converting our own people to their cause. Every engagement, every contact, every interaction makes more beings question why they follow our orders. The humans are not just winning battles, they are winning hearts and minds." High Chancellor. Mordok's crystalline form resonated with barely controlled panic. "How do we fight an enemy that turns our victories into their recruitment opportunities?" The answer was becoming increasingly clear. They could not. The Council's authoritarian system depended on the belief that order and hierarchy were natural and necessary. Humanity's very existence challenged that belief. And every human victory proved that a different way was possible as the 6th month of the war ended. The Galactic Council faced a crisis that threatened the foundation of their civilization. The mythical humans had not only proven their existence, but had inspired a galaxy-wide transformation that showed no signs of slowing down. The tide of the war had turned, and it was flowing toward a future that no one could have predicted. 2 years after humanity's revelation to the galaxy, the final confrontation was approaching. But this would not be the climactic space battle that military historians expected. Instead, it would be something far more profound. The moment when the galaxy chose its future. Captain Song Mingi stood on the bridge of the diplomatic vessel, Harmony's voice as it approached Nexus Prime, the crystal world where this entire conflict had begun. Around her ship flew vessels from 47 different species, all united under the banner of the Free Worlds Alliance. They had come not as conquerors, but as representatives of a new vision for galactic civilization. "Sir, we are receiving multiple surrender requests from Council forces," reported Tactical Officer No Yemen. "The Andromedan 6th Fleet is requesting safe passage to neutral space. The Silicon Hegemony remnants are offering to stand down if we guarantee the safety of their crews." Captain Song made a decision that would define humanity's place in galactic history. Grant all requests. Provide escort ships to ensure safe passage. No pursuit, no vengeance, no conditions, except that they leave peacefully. The bridge crew exchanged glances. After 2 years of war, after all the battles and losses, many expected humanity to demand unconditional surrender and punishment for those who had tried to erase them from history. But Captain Song's orders reflected something deeper about human nature, the capacity for mercy even toward those who had wronged them. On the planet's surface, ancient council chambers had been transformed. Once only the galaxy's most powerful species had been permitted to speak. Now representatives from hundreds of worlds gathered as equals. The rigid hierarchy that had defined galactic civilization for millennia was crumbling, replaced by something unprecedented, true democracy on a cosmic scale. Ambassador Huang Yujin stood at the center of the Great Hall, representing not just humanity but the entire Free Worlds Alliance. Round her, beings of every imaginable form watched in silence as she prepared to address the galaxy. Her words would be transmitted to billions of viewers across the cosmos, marking the end of one era and the beginning of another. "Fellow beings of the galaxy," she began, her voice carrying clearly through the translation systems that rendered her words in 1,000 languages. "We stand here today not as conquerors celebrating victory over the defeated, but as neighbors, coming together to build something better than what came before." The new galactic charter she presented was revolutionary in its simplicity. Gone were the complex hierarchies that had placed some species above others based on age, technology, or military power. In their place was a single principle: every sentient being had the right to contribute to galactic civilization, according to their abilities, and to benefit from its achievements, according to their needs. For too long, this galaxy has been divided between the rulers and the ruled. Ambassador Wang continued. "Propose something different. A community where strength comes not from domination, but from cooperation. Where advancement comes not from hoarding knowledge, but from sharing it freely." But the most significant moment came when Dr. Kim Dae-ho, the elderly scientist who had first witnessed humanity's erasure from galactic records, stepped forward to present his final gift to the cosmos. Working with researchers from dozens of species, he had compiled what he called the True History Archive, comprehensive record of every civilization's actual contributions to galactic progress. The revelations were staggering and humbling in equal measure. The great architectural wonders attributed solely to the Crystalline Collective had actually been collaborative projects involving human engineers. The beautiful musical compositions that defined harmony singer culture had been inspired by human folk songs shared during first contact. Even the Council's own governmental structures were based on political theories, first developed by human philosophers centuries earlier. "We were never separate," Dr. Kim explained to the assembly, his aged voice carrying the weight of decades spent studying galactic civilization. "We were always one people, one community, one family exploring the cosmos together. The only fiction was the barriers we built between ourselves." As the archive's contents spread across galactic networks, something beautiful began to happen. Instead of diminishing the achievements of individual species, the revelations showed how much more had been accomplished through cooperation than any civilization could have achieved alone. The release triggered what historians would later call the Great Recognition, a galaxy-wide celebration as species rediscover their interconnected heritage. Statues honoring collaborative achievements appeared on worlds across the galaxy. Universities established programs studying interspecies cooperation. Children of different races learned together about their shared history and common future. But perhaps the most moving moment came when Ambassador Velthor, the being who had started this conflict by declaring humanity fictional, requested permission to address the assembly. The former council leader had been stripped of his authority and could have faced punishment for his role in the suppression protocol. Instead, he had been granted sanctuary by human mercy and the opportunity to help build the future he had once tried to prevent. "I stand before you not to ask for forgiveness," Velthor began, his bioluminescent patterns flickering with genuine emotion. "I do not deserve it. Instead, I ask for the chance to help correct the lies I helped create and to spend whatever time remains to me in service of the truth." His transformation from enemy to ally symbolized the deeper change occurring throughout the galaxy. Beings who had supported the old system not out of malice, but out of fear and habit were finding new purpose in the Alliance's vision of mutual cooperation. The formal ceremonies concluded with the signing of the new Galactic Compact. Real celebration began in the streets and spaceports of worlds across the cosmos. For the first time in galactic history, beings from every known species walked freely among each other, sharing food, stories, art, and dreams on Earth. Now designated as the capital of the new Galactic Federation, the transformation was particularly visible. The skyline of New Geneva rose toward the stars, its architecture blending styles from dozens of worlds. Human children played alongside young beings from across the galaxy, their laughter a universal language that needed no translation. The monument to galactic unity. Built not by any single species, but by representatives of every civilization, and the Alliance stood at the heart of the city. Its design incorporated elements from every known architectural tradition, creating something that was simultaneously familiar to all and completely unique. Ambassador Velthor, who had requested assignment as a cultural liaison rather than returning to his home world, often brought groups of young beings to visit the monument. His former authority meant nothing now, but his knowledge of galactic history made him an excellent teacher. They were never fiction. He would tell the mixed groups of children as they stood before the towering structure. Humans were the most real thing in the universe because they refused to accept that things had to stay the way they were. They showed us that every story could be rewritten, every limitation could be overcome, every dream could become reality if we worked together to make it happen. Years passed and the galaxy continued to transform. Trade routes that had once been restricted to certain species became open highways traveled by beings from every world. Technologies that had been hoarded by the powerful were freely shared, leading to innovations that benefited everyone. Conflicts that had seemed impossible to resolve were mediated by mixed species councils that brought different perspectives to every problem. The old council chambers on Nexus Prime were converted into a museum dedicated to the lessons of history. Visitors could see the records of the suppression protocol, preserved not to shame anyone but to ensure that future generations would remember the cost of allowing fear to override compassion. But the most popular exhibit was a simple recording of Dr. Seo Jiang's broadcast about Earth's harsh conditions. Beings from across the galaxy would watch in amazement as she described the death world that had forged humanity's character, and many would leave with a new understanding of their own potential for growth and resilience. As the years turned into decades, the galaxy settled into its new rhythm. The rigid order of the old council was replaced by the controlled chaos of true democracy, where every voice could be heard and every idea could be tested. It was messier, louder, and more complicated than the previous system. But it was also more alive, more creative, and more hopeful. The cosmos had been told that humanity was fiction, but in proving that wrong, humanity had proved something far more important: that the greatest stories were not the ones about perfect heroes conquering impossible odds, but the ones about ordinary beings choosing to work together to create something better than they could achieve alone. In the end, that was humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy, not superior technology or military might, but the simple understanding that every being, regardless of their origins or limitations, had something valuable to contribute to the great story of civilization. The universe was vast, dark, and dangerous, but it was not empty. It was filled with stories, with hope, and with the endless possibility that tomorrow could be better than today if everyone worked together to make it so. Damn, and in the star-filled sky above New Geneva, ships from across the galaxy continued their eternal dance between the worlds, carrying beings of every species toward adventures and discoveries that none of them could imagine alone, but all of them could achieve together. The fiction had become reality, and reality had become more wonderful than any story ever told. Chat controls Sonnet 4.